So to start off with, could you tell me your name, your company, and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Maanas Mediratta. I am the CEO at Bridged. What
Hmm.
we do is we are actually the world's biggest AI platform for events, which essentially is to monetize the intent of an audience in an event. And yeah, we did about 2,000 events last year, which was a humbling experience. And yeah, that's
Wow.
that's a little bit about.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of events. That must have been really hectic.
Yeah, it was.
So what do you think is the intent of audiences within events now?
It is interesting that you talk about intent, right? Because over the last couple of decades, it has been known that digital
Mm.
is the frontier or upcoming channel for monetizing intent or even capitalizing on intent. But what we've seen, especially with AI, which might sound counterintuitive, is that AI has really diluted the intent signals on digital. In fact, me as a business owner as well, I have seen that the intent on digital channels is giving me a much higher acquisition cost. So what I'm seeing in events is where intent lives
Mhm.
and deals are done. So that's why event for me is becoming, as I was saying, the sunrise industry. And
And can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by the sunrise industry?
absolutely, and I'll tell you one of the quotes by Mark Cuban, which is actually one of the world's biggest investor. He talks about AI as going to cause the money vanilla effect. I don't know
Mm.
if you know this band. This is an 80s band where they used to perform on stage, but they were fake.
Yeah.
So people found out and they started completely hating these live performances. So what Mark Cuban believes is that this money vanilla effect will happen in and will trigger the rise of events. That's why Mark Cuban calls it as the sunrise industry, because he feels that the more you're on digital, where you're flooded with AI slots, you will start getting gravitational pull towards in-person events and events in general.
And have you noticed that a lot within your work?
Oh, absolutely. And it's pretty apparent across, you can look into different digital signals, right? For example, the growth rates for events is currently at 20%, which is insane if you think about it as an industry. Apart from that, as I said, like we measure acquisition costs of how we interact with people and acquire people. And the acquisition cost in events is far more ROI positive than doing cold outbound or digital signals.
Amazing. And we're here at Confex today. You're doing two sessions and a roundtable. Can you tell me a little bit about the sessions and what they covered, what you spoke about, or what you're going to speak about?
Yeah, so in the sessions, our strategy or our thinking was let's go more deeper into the problems to solve rather than just monetizing intent as a solution.
Mhm.
So we were talking about fringe events on how you can actually capture and even monetize intent from small micro events,
Yeah.
how you can in fact create not just an event, but an event platform where you can, capitalize different intents in different niches using micro events. That was one thing that we covered yesterday. Today, we are talking about how intent is or one of the biggest data that you can acquire is during registration and how you can actually enrich the intent that people give during a registration using a lot of different AI systems and agentic systems. And during the roundtable, which is the most interesting one because we are focusing on the stakeholder responses of how at the moment, and this is to be very honest, we found this with Confix as well, where sponsors like us, we are not getting the amount of qualified signals or intent signals from the event or from the organizer on how we can capitalize post event. So we're talking about how in the roundtable sponsors can maximize their event participation and how they can monitor these intent signals to create ROI.
Why do you think it is that you're not getting that from organizers?
So there is a couple of reasons for that. I think the most important one is how events as a business has been constructed over the last couple of decades, right? It was always like, okay, you want specific performance data that goes on digital. If you want to do handshakes, you go on events. So the product of events is being constructed in a way to give more visibility, those logo placements, those impression data, but it's not really been about performance. It's not been about pipeline creation for the sponsor. So that's one. The second biggest reason that I have personally seen looking at all the different event organizers from Mash Media, Informa, and the likes of it, is that at an average, um, you are using between 20 to 100 softwares to deliver
Mhm.
an event. Now, what does that mean? That means that all the intent signals that I'm giving, whether I'm interacting with it on your app, whether I'm doing a registration on another portal, gets scattered and silent.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult for an event organizer to be able to pull that all together for a sponsor, look at the brief of a sponsor. So all of these different micro jobs are now what we are seeing, and the value that we are bringing in is that you can build agentic workflows, deliver the same value that LinkedIn, for example, performs when I run a campaign on that.
And what do you think organizers need to do to improve on that for sponsors?
I think for me, this age, which is, I would say, the milestone when ChatGPT got launched in the end of 2022 for the next 5 to 7 years,
Yeah.
is really being disciplined about AI adoption.
Yeah.
Really looking at how you can use software or technology, or even if not technology, some way to be able to fulfill on outcomes, not just on impressions, not just on logos, not just sort of showcase that, you have a booth and a stand, but really the amount of outcomes in pipeline that an event organizer can deliver for a sponsor.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather.